Iim Calcutta completes 62 years of its glorious existence. It is a day for celebration, joy, and remembrance. It is a day for introspection, and it is a day to communicate our firm resolve to chart a distinctive path as a preeminent institution of management education. For the last 6 decades, we have had our share of contributions to the nation. Our Rashtra Seva has been through nurturing and shaping bright young minds who have often made us proud through their accomplishments in different walks of life. I welcome you all to the Foundation Day celebration of the Institute and the Distinguished Alumnus Award Ceremony 2022. May I invite Shri Sri Krishna Kulkarni, Chairman, Board of Governors of Iim Calcutta, Mr. Shyam Srinivasan, Chief Guest, Professor Uttam Kumar Sarkar, Director, Iim Calcutta, Professor Bhaskar Chakraborty, Dean Academic, and Professor Manish Thakur, Dean New Initiatives and External Relations, to take their seats on the dais. Thank you. May I now invite Professor Uttam Kumar Sarkar, Director, Iim Calcutta, to please welcome the guests.
Mr. Shyam Srinivasan, MD and CEO of Federal Bank, and our chief guest this evening, Sri Sri Krishna Kulkarni, Chairman, Board of Governors of Iim Calcutta, Professor Bhaskar Chakraborty, Dean Academic, Professor Manish Thakur, members of BOG, faculty, ex-faculty, alumni, distinguished alumnus awardees this evening, their family members, students, staff, members of the media, those who are watching the event online, ladies and gentlemen. Very good evening. It's a proud moment for IIM Calcutta, the country's first IIM, to celebrate its 62nd Foundation Day. I take this opportunity to express my gratitude to all stakeholders over these years who have helped us become what we are today. It's my pleasure and privilege to welcome you to this beautiful evening of the celebration. This year, we're extremely fortunate to have Mr. Shyam Srinivasan as our chief guest. On behalf of Iim Calcutta, I welcome him to the Institute and thank him for agreeing to be here among us despite his very busy schedule. Thank you, sir. Chairman BOG will introduce him to you a little later. Few words about the Institute. IIM Calcutta, the first national level institute in the field of management, was set up in 1961 by Government of India in collaboration with MIT Sloan School of Management, Ford Foundation, and the State Government of West Bengal. It had made its modest beginning at a makeshift North Calcutta campus, and from there we have grown to where we are today. Initially, we had only MBA program, used to be called PGDM. Now we have several programs. We have 2-year MBA program, 1-year MBA program for executives with lots of work experience. We have a doctoral program. We have a 1-year program for visionary leadership in manufacturing with IIT Madras and IIT Kanpur. We have a 2-year full-time residential postgraduate program on business analytics with IIT Kharagpur and Indian Statistical Institute. In addition to that, we have plenty of executive training programs in multiple formats, physical face-to-face format, as well as online virtual formats. IMC has gone a long way from its modest beginning. Now we have a place in the world map. We have been accredited by all three major agencies, AACSB, AMBA, and EQUIS. So we are triple accredited, the first institute in the country to be so. We are also a proud member of the SAMES Alliance. So with London School of Economics, or Singhua, or ISAD, Iim Calcutta logo and brand, come at the same time, at the same display. That is where we are today. All this have been possible because of our alumni primarily. So our alumni have proven their merits in multiple areas, in corporates, all over the world. They are occupying CEO positions today. In academia, in many noted institutes, our alumni have envious research records and making big contributions. In government, whether it's police service, administrative service, or foreign service, our alumni are making big contributions. Why only government? NGOs, selfless social service, sports, art, media, they're everywhere. It's the alumni who make us all proud, and they justify our existence. But academics is a perpetual journey toward excellence in broadening the horizon of knowledge and contributions. And there is no place for complacency. While we are aware we are doing reasonably good, but we do understand that we have to do a lot better to be at par with the world standard, if not doing even better. Of course, we have our own constraints that requires our physical and virtual infrastructure to be significantly augmented, as well as our human resources. All these are non-trivial problems, especially when you are tied with multiple non-trivial constraints, including financial constraints. So our Board of Governors and all our stakeholders, we meet periodically, once every few years, do a strategic planning exercise to find our direction amid all these constraints. And that's what we have been doing so far, and that's what we'll be continuing to do. But in this journey, to find even a better place to make us better every other day, we need active support of all our stakeholders, our alumni in particular. I'm very happy to tell you, our alumni have come up in a very big way towards this initiative. Of late, we have formed a Section 8 company, non-profit company, primarily for this purpose, to give it a structure where interested alumni can make contributions in whatever form they think appropriate to take their alma mater forward. You will be happy to know this company will be run essentially by alumni only, fully by alumni. So they will shape the fate of this company, the fate of the development the institute will have from here onwards. I do realize we are as good as our alumni are, and we are as good as our faculty and staff who helped them convert from the students to the alumni status throughout their journey at this institute. So we as an institute felt the best way to commemorate this event would be to felicitate our alumni, remember them, and also our staff members who made long contributions. However, there are too many of the alumni worth remembering this day all over the world. We can only name a handful of those. So what we have been doing for the last several years, we have this distinguished alumnus award ceremony tied to this event. So on this particular day, we show our pride by felicitating few of our alumni with distinguished alumnus awards. Professor Manish Thakur, Dean, New Initiative and External Relations, who looks after alumni affairs, will shortly tell you about these words. At the same time, we felicited some of those employees who have been serving the institute for a long time. Colonel Alok Chandra, the Chief Admin Officer, after a while will tell you about them. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Please enjoy this evening with Distinguished Alumnus Award ceremony, with a talk by our Chairman, Board of Governors, and of course, the Foundation Day lecture by no other than Mr. Sam Srinivasan, and a felicitation of some of our employees who have been serving the institute for long time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. To begin the Distinguished Alumnus Award Ceremony 2022, may I now invite Professor Manish Thakur, Dean, New Initiatives and External Relations, to say a few words about the Distinguished Alumnus Award.
Shri Shyam Srinivasan, CEO and MD of Federal Bank, and our chief guest of the day, Shri Krishna Kulkarni ji, Chairman BOG Iim Calcutta, Professor Uttam Sarkar, Director Iim Calcutta, Professor Bhaskar Chakravarti, Dean Academic, 8 unannounced Distinguished Alumnus Awardees for the year 2022. I know they are there, I can see them, but I will announce their names in a short while. Our honored guests, the ones who are here with us in this auditorium, and the ones who have joined us, I can't see them, hopefully virtually. It's my honor and privilege to announce the names of the recipients of Iim Calcutta's Distinguished Alumnus Award for the year 22 at this 62nd Foundation Day. However, before I do so, and I seek your indulgence, it's only appropriate that I say a few words about the award itself. These awards, as Director has already mentioned, were instituted in the year 2011. That is the golden jubilee year of the Institute. So far, 67 of our illustrious alumni have been conferred with this award. With 4 awards being conferred this evening, I have revealed the number, we reached the total number of 71. And this award is our modest way of honoring and felicitating those of our alumni who have made significant contributions in their respective domains of work and engagement, such as corporate leadership, academia, entrepreneurship, public policy, NGO, and philanthropy. In a way, this award is a token of Institute's tribute to our alums' ability, competence, success, and all those attributes which have made them so worthy of all the laurels that they have got and will get. All that is indeed true for the 4 eminent alumni who will be awarded today, this evening. At the same time, and again, I am reiterating what Director has already said, for us here at Iim Calcutta, this award is also our not so humble, in a way boastful, communication to the world that look, such distinguished people with such extraordinary achievements once walked through not so aesthetically appealing CPWD constructed buildings of ABC block and lived in mosquito-infested surroundings with perpetual fear of malaria and dengue. I said these precise words last year also. They are the ones who conceived of great ideas and displayed extraordinary academic rigor while conducting their everyday business of life in now dilapidated and waterlogged hostels like Tagore and Ramanujan. True, and almost as a compensation, they also had the unique opportunity to roam through our lush green Joka campus, experiencing the quietude of 7 lakes and listening to the chirping of birds. And as bright young minds, they helped us grow as an institution, just as they grew during the 2 years that we were together. We learned from them as much as they learned from us. And it is this mutuality that has given us a distinctive identity that we are celebrating this evening as the Institute's Foundation Day. Thus, the Distinguished Alumnus Award ceremony is a way of partaking of our collective glory that has been made possible, if not fully, but certainly partially, by this public institution of eminence that we call Iim Calcutta and the Calcuttans call Joka Management. This ceremony, this day, offers us a forum and an opportunity to celebrate our camaraderie, deep connect, and our collective commitment to see Joka management reach newer and newer heights as it prepares for the future. I am sure sooner than later, IMC will be the most desired destination in the country for anyone and everyone who has something to do with management education. Jai Hind.
Professor Manish Thakur, Dean, NINER, may kindly announce the first awardee this evening.
So, the first awardee for the year 2022 is Shri Iim Kapoor from PGP 8th batch. Mr. Kapoor, kindly come to the dais. Now may I request the director to welcome Mr. Kapoor with the shawl.
May I request Sri Krishna Kulkarni, Chairman, Board of Governors, to hand over the Distinguished Alumnus Award and the citation scroll to Mr. Kapoor. May I request Professor Karnika Bains to come on stage and read the citation for Mr. Kapoor.
Good evening, everyone. We take immense pleasure in honoring Mr. Gaur Mohan Kapoor, an alumnus of the 8th batch of Iim Calcutta, for his outstanding contributions to the field of conservation of heritage through excellence in awareness creation and practice. Mr. Kapoor is a member of the Governing Council and Executive Committee and chairs the chapter's advisory committee of the Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage, the largest voluntary organization sponsored by the Government of India as an autonomous body in 1984. It is dedicated to conservation. The committee oversees the activities of more than 200 chapters of INTAC all over the country. He is also state convener of West Bengal and the Calcutta regional chapters. He received his PGDM from Iim Calcutta in 1973 and a BTech in Mechanical Engineering from the Indian Institute of Technology, BHU, in 1971. He is also a member of the Institute of Engineers and a chartered engineer. He also chairs the committee for Visioning INTAC 2035. Mr. Kapoor has developed on his passion for heritage conservation and is widely recognized in his field. He has been active in formulating legislative policies for the state and city, which has led to the enactment of the heritage protection laws for them. Many of the landmark heritage buildings in the city owe their restoration efforts to INTAC. He writes regularly on the subject and has published more than 140 articles of lesser-known heritage sites in the country for national dailies. He has edited and published books on documentation of Calcutta's built heritage, police heritage, tea heritage of Assam and North Bengal, among others. He heads the INTAC Conservation Institute in Calcutta, which is the first conservation center for material heritage restoration and preservation in the state in the private domain. GM Kapoor, or GM, as he is popularly known, is a long-time resident of Calcutta. He joined what was called an army of conscience keepers to the nation to protect what is rightly ours, our heritage, on an invitation to join the INTAC, which he felt was the perfect platform for furthering the cause of heritage conservation. He is also involved with the INTAC Heritage Academy in New Delhi, which offers both online and offline heritage education. His role as an activist in this area is widely acknowledged, because of which he has been invited to serve on various government panels and industry associations where the symbiotic relationship between heritage and tourism has been nurtured and developed to help in deriving economic value from tangible and intangible heritage. In addition, he is active in various civil society causes as well, including social service, peace initiatives, environmental and urban recognition issues. In addition to swimming, socializing, and watching movies and theater, GM is an avid reader and enjoys listening to various genres of music, both Indian and Western. We acknowledge Mr. Kapoor's significant achievement as a heritage conservationist with enormous pride and bestow upon him the Institute's highest honor for its alumni, the Distinguished Alumnus Award.
May I now request Mr. Kapoor to share his thoughts for about 5 minutes.
Yes, I will not exceed that. Honorable dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, and I, as I mentioned, will be very brief. It is needless to mention that I am deeply honored and overwhelmed at being nominated for the Distinguished Alumnus Award by my alma mater, Iim Calcutta. Recognition is a matter of great pride, and recognition by one's alma mater and peer group is even more so. My profuse and heartfelt thanks to all those who have considered me worthy of this award, especially my batchmates who proposed my name. I am indeed touched and humbled. I've attended this award ceremony many times, and I must confess, I never dreamt that I would be standing here. So while it is not a dream come true for me, it is indeed a motivating spirit for my future endeavors and activities. More so because this recognition is slightly off the norm, as I am not an academic nor a corporate leader, but my contribution to what may be referred to as social enterprise is being recognized. But I would like to place on record the fact that the contribution of IIMC in my journey has been immense. To recap, my journey had been quite smooth sailing. 50 years ago, career options were limited. If one was good in studies, one took up engineering or medicine as a career, depending on whether one studied maths or biology in school. Not for us was the luxury of choice of hairstyling, dress designing, interiors, etc., since they were not mainstream enough. Of course, today all these are celebrity options, but not at that time. By the time I completed BTech, MBA, or PGDM for us had opened up opportunities since 2 IIMs had been established. So it was almost a natural progression. I entered the lofty portals of the Emerald Bar campus, whose magnificent facade hid an indescribable set of buildings called the tubular structure. I would like to make a request to Chairman that it seems most people here are not even aware that that heritage of IIMC started there. And in fact, I was so shocked to learn that they are referring to it as a transit campus, which hurts my sensibilities. It is the Emerald Bower campus, and my request that all the students be taken there for a sightseeing to see where it all started. My request. But life was good, as all my batchmates sitting here will vouch. We survived, and how? Anyway, it is there that I attended a course in social and economic history offered by one of the most erudite and knowledgeable professors in this subject, whose lectures held us spellbound. Professor Borun Day, who unfortunately is not with us anymore. While other classes saw varying degrees of attendance, his class had 100%. The impression he had on me was long-lasting. He kindled the spark in me for dedication to heritage and conservation. I joined the State Bank of India with a salary of 1,350 rupees per month, which included a hill allowance and a fuel allowance, since I was posted in Simla. Considering that Mr. Rusi Modi, the highest paid executive in the country at that time, was capped with a salary of 7,500, I didn't do too badly. Incidentally, beer in Simla was rupees 5 a bottle in those days. However, banking was not for me. The entrepreneurial bug had bitten, so I took the plunge and pursued this course for some time, with some cash outs and a crash out. In the meantime, I had joined an army of conscience keepers to the nation, to protect what is rightfully ours, our heritage. The Indian National Trust for Art and Cultural Heritage has been established and was inviting volunteers from all over the country, and I felt it was a perfect platform to pursue my mission of heritage conservation. Professor Day continued to be my mentor in his role as the chairman of the West Bengal Heritage Commission, as well as on a personal level. So as I have mentioned earlier, IIMC had a role to play in whatever I have pursued over the years. And of course, I must acknowledge the contribution of all family and friends who have stood by me in all my endeavors, not all of which may have been interesting to everyone. However, I do feel our tangible and intangible culture and heritage is unique and which we should be proud of. It has to be a people's movement, and I do hope that this recognition will kindle the spark in many more of us, especially IIMC students and alumni. My sincere thanks once again to all of you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. You may kindly take your seat now.
May I now request Professor Manish Thakur, Dean, NI and ER, to kindly announce the second awardee this evening.
The second awardee is Shri Srikant Sastri. Kindly come to the dais, sir. Yeah.
May I now request the director to please greet Mr. Shastri with the shawl. May I request Shri Shri Krishna Kulkarni, Chairman, Board of Governors, to hand over the Distinguished Alumnus Award and the citation scroll to Mr. Shastri. May I request Professor Rashmi Kumari to come on stage and read the citation for Mr. Shrikant Sastry.
Good evening, everyone. We take immense pleasure in honoring Mr. Shrikant Shastri, an alumnus of 28th batch of Iim Calcutta, for his outstanding entrepreneurial achievements. Mr. Shastri is a seasoned entrepreneur who has built and exited 2 successful ventures with more than 2,000 employees and 15,000 employees, respectively. He is considered one of the most respected entrepreneurship evangelists in the country. He co-founded Crayon Data, the ambitious Singapore and India-based AI startup. As an entrepreneurship evangelizer, he created Chalo Startup web series and is on several government advisory bodies. After completing an engineering degree from IIT Kanpur and an MBA from Iim Calcutta, he started his career with Unilever India and after that worked at McCann Erickson. Mr. Shrikant is a mentor on a mission. He is the president of the Indus Entrepreneur Thai Delhi NCR chapter, one of the largest and most awarded chapters amongst the 60 Thai chapters across 14 countries. The Thai NCR chapter has played a pivotal role in developing the startup ecosystem in India and is now an essential ally of the government in crucial initiatives for startups. Mr. Shrikant believes that the spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation should spread far beyond the metros to provide real opportunities for India's youth. Transforming universities into hubs of entrepreneurship and focusing on underserved regions is a big part of his focus, and he has devoted significant amount of his time to this endeavor. Mr. Shrikant holds formal board position at various startup incubators and government bodies. He speaks regularly at colleges and youth forums across the country and has published vast amount of relevant content on his social media channels that are widely followed. The Ventilator Project, his best-selling co-authored book in 2021, is a perfect example of success story of rapid innovation that created growth. His ongoing video series on his YouTube channel, Chalo Startup, answers the most common questions that startup co-founders have and have helped them jumpstart their dreams. As a jury member of 13-episode recently aired TV show Icons of Bharat, Mr. Shrikant engaged deeply with the grassroots entrepreneurs across the country. His contribution as the chairman of Iim Calcutta Innovation Park was pivotal in taking it to the next level and making it one of the leading incubators in the country. As someone who has built and sold 2 extensive service ventures in India and Southeast Asia, Mr. Shrikant now uses his vast experience of over 3 decades to help emerging and aspiring entrepreneurs. He mentors several companies like Kirana Club, Omniflow, Fellow, Vidyo, and hands-on, quite few of them, to create India-centric impact. As someone who has contributed to the entrepreneurship ecosystem of the country, we take immense pride in congratulating Mr. Shrikant Shastri for his extraordinary achievements. We acknowledge Mr. Shastri's significant achievements as an entrepreneur with enormous pride and bestow upon him the Institute's highest honor for its alumni, the Distinguished Alumnus Award. Thank you.
Good evening, namaskar. I'm going to start by deviating from the script first to respond to Manish's comment about mosquitoes, seepage, CPWD. As an entrepreneur, I would say give us more mosquitoes, more seepage, more CPWD. The more problems you give, there'll be more entrepreneurs in the country. The other point I want to make is, our MC said 5 minutes only. The original brief from the alumni office was 5 to 7 minutes. As an entrepreneur, I will take the liberty, therefore, and go beyond 5 minutes because entrepreneurs take liberties. Okay. Thank you, first of all, for the award. Deeply honored. I live in Delhi, but I flew in from Mumbai to Kolkata this morning because I had work in Mumbai over the weekend. I actually see this as divine coincidence because my first ever trip to IMC in 1983 was via the Mumbai-Howrah Gitanjali Express, named after Gurudev Tagore's collection of poetry. A prestigious train bringing many of us to this prestigious institution. That date is etched in my memory for many reasons. One of the reasons was that was the date, June 25th, 1983, that India won the '83 World Cup. But that was also the date I and others came to IMC full of curiosity, expectation, and hope with respect to IMC. So if that train trip was about curiosity and hope, this morning's flight from Mumbai was about gratitude to IMC. And gratitude for three big reasons, besides, of course, the reward. Reason number one, IMC has been the foundation for my career and life. I specialized in marketing and finance, and my first venture was a marketing services business. What I learned in class, I built a business around it. My specialization in finance was very useful because I had a bootstrapped business. So every day with my team, I would use my Finance One concepts and review with them invoicing, collections, cash, accounts receivable, accounts payable with my team to ensure that the business could survive. And while on campus, we would curse our Professor Ramu, N. Ramachandran of finance every day because of how tough he was. But when I was running my business, I thanked him and blessed him every day. So it was at IMC where I met my would-be wife, Sudha, also. She's a 20th batcher. Her specialization was in HR, and it so happens that my second venture was built in the HR domain. She often tells me that I borrowed or stolen her expertise. Now, that's not an argument I ever try and get into with her because I know I'll never win. You never win arguments with your spouse. The only time she did not have the last word was when our sons accompanied us to the campus reunion. Now, we went across to the admin block. There's a roll of honor there. My sons saw my name on the roll of honor, and they asked my wife, "Why is your name missing?" She said, "I didn't study hard enough on campus." My son turns around to her and says, "Now you can never tell us that we must study harder." So that was one of those times IMC was responsible for me having one-upmanship over my wife. Again, a reason for gratitude. So reason number two is that IMC gave me a sense of purpose. Overtly and subtly, IMC drilled in all of us the message that business is not just about profits. It's also about staying connected with India's socio-economic realities. Professor Kamini Adhikari's course, Indian Economic and Political History, is still very memorable for me. And now I see the same thing being replicated via Iim Calcutta Innovation Park, which is doing great work at the grassroots, especially in the lesser developed states of East and Northeast India. That sense of purpose became my North Star in my career and life. Reason number three is the most interesting. IMC gave me exposure to a region, West Bengal and East India, the people here, the food here, etc. It introduced Kolkata as a city to me, a city that I and my family are very fond of now, although we live in Delhi. I've come back umpteen times on work, but work is only an excuse. We really come here for the food in Calcutta. As vegetarians many years ago, we started with the Bengali thali at Aheli at Peerless Inn, gradually moved to 6 Baliganj Place, And more recently, my IMCIP friends introduced me to a new place called Babu Culture. Jokes apart, it's hard to find a city that's as warm and welcoming as Kolkata. So those were my 3 reasons. But I have to thank several people in this room. Sri Krishna Kulkarni for that phone call in September 2018 when you invited me to join the board of IMCIP. Uttamda, Balram is somewhere in the audience, Manish, Bhaskar, Bodhibrata. All of you have been such wonderful colleagues on the IMCIP board. Anirvan, Suren, Vidyanand, with whom I have had great time in some of the MDP and LDP programs. Note that I've used the first names for all of you. As a student, we don't do that with our profs, but I think I've earned some friendship with you. I would finally like to thank the wonderful team at Iim Calcutta Innovation Park, the leadership there which has made IMCIP the best incubator in the country. Shubhranshu Sanyal, Debo Pratim, Namami, Gaurav, Pranjal, hats off to you guys. Thank you once again for this award. I'm deeply grateful and honored. I recall once again, I started with Gitanjali from Tagore. I'm going to end with one more takeaway from Tagore's Gitanjali. Give me the strength to make my love fruitful and service. I hope I can continue to serve my alma mater in the same way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You may now kindly take your seat. I request Professor Manish Thakur to kindly announce the third awardee for the evening.
The third awardee for this evening is Mr. Sanjay Gupta, PGP 26th batch. Kindly come to the dais.
May I now request the director to greet Mr. Gupta with the shawl. May I request Sri Krishna Kulkarni, Chairman, Board of Governors, to hand over the Distinguished Alumnus Award and the citation scroll to Mr. Gupta. May I request Professor Ankit Kumar to come on stage and read the citation for Mr. Gupta.
Hello everyone, Namaskar. We take immense pleasure in honoring Mr. Sanjay Gupta, an alumnus of 26th batch of Iim Calcutta, for his stellar corporate career. Sanjay Gupta is the country head and vice president of Google India and leads team that help businesses transform and grow by leveraging digital, focusing on small and medium enterprises, women entrepreneurs, and startups. Google India is one of the most important and fast-growing markets for the Google globally. Sanjay is instrumental in driving the strategy, growth, and establishment of the global best practices. As a leader, he is focused on managing the key initiatives under the Google's mission in India of making the internet helpful and safer for 1 billion Indians and driving efforts that make India a leading digital economy. Sanjay joined Google in early 2020 with an exceptional career that spans nearly 3 decades across the sunrise sector like media and entertainment. Telecom, FMCG industry, giving him a deep understanding of India's diverse consumer and business landscape. Before Google, Sanjay was the managing director of Star and Disney India, which he plays a pivotal role in extending Star's traditional television content to the digital consumer through Hotstar. He is also widely credited for building their sports business. Sanjay began his career in Hindustan Unilever, where he led the marketing team for the 2 of the company's most critical segments, oral as well as home care. He then moved to serve as a Bharti Airtel's chief marketing officer for its mobile business, spearheading the growth agenda for the company. In addition to being a founder member of the Nudge Foundation, which works in the area of the poverty elevation, Sanjay champions responsible progress for the internet industry in India in his capacity as the chairperson of the Internet and Mobile Association of India. He also actively invests time in mentoring young professionals, startup founders, and in the part of several advisory committees. He contributes extensively to the industry and currently the chairman of FICCI Media and Entertainment. Since 2015, he has also been the chairman of CII Sports Committee. In addition, he was also the member of the board of the Martial Sport and Football Sport Development Limited till 2019. Sanjay holds an MBA from Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, and is an engineer from Delhi College of Engineering. He currently lives in Mumbai. We acknowledge Mr. Gupta's significant achievement and exemplary professional in the corporate arena with enormous pride and bestowed upon him the Institute's highest honor for its alumni, Distinguished Alumnus Award, given this 14th day of November 2022. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Shyam Srinivasan, Managing Director and CEO of Federal Bank, Mr. Sri Krishna Kulkarni ji, Chairman, the Board of Governors, Director, Professor Uttam Kumar Sarkar, Professor Bhaskar Chakravarti, Professor Manish Thakur, thoughtful, demanding, and caring faculty of Iim Calcutta, the hard-working staff at Iim Calcutta, and unstoppable young and brilliant students. Thank you for making me a part of this momentous occasion. Iim Calcutta has shaped me to my very core, and I am deeply humbled by this honor. The year was 1991. I was a proud resident of White House, D-Top. I think it's known by a different name now. An ecstatic young graduate. In the midst of serenity and greenery, those blissful walks across the bridge, could feel the incoming rain in my room D301. And I was there for 2 years, surprisingly and in a good way. Those deep late night conversations with friends and breakfast at Machan almost every day because I was late riser. Well, I used to rise well past the canteen timings at that time. And not surprisingly, most of us in that batch or batch 26, only 3 to 5 people used to be in a class of 120. But such was the unbridled freedom at Iim Calcutta, where the choices were ours and the faculty treated us like adults that were expected to be. An environment where I enjoyed every day and learned so much from friends, from nature, from the staff in Iim Calcutta, and not only from the faculty. I was excited, somewhat confused, and largely unaware of the world outside. Contrast this with a fair bit of turmoil happening slightly away from home in the year 1991. The Gulf War was on, while the Soviet Union was getting dissolved. And right here, outside the doors of our safe space, that is this campus, our country was undergoing an economic awakening. Lives were changing. Society was progressing. In my own excitement, what I didn't realize at that time was that how momentous this year 1990 will be in the history books as an iconic landmark year, effectively changing my country's outlook. The world was transforming and India was opening up. Also, I was graduating not fully understanding the cusp of change I stood at. And let me take a moment to take you further back into history, a shade over 60 years to this day, when the doors of this prestigious institute first opened. I often wonder, as our inaugural director, Mr. K. Chitandi, first embarked on this journey along with students, did he recognize the transformational legacy that he would leave behind? That by laying the foundation of this institution, he would be having such a profound impact on the aspirations of many generations to come. That was in 1961. As I reflect on my journey, I don't think I could fathom how these instances of change would impact the phases of my life. My path to Iim Calcutta was pure serendipity, and so was everything that followed. I joined Hindustan Lever from Iim Calcutta. Neither my batchmates nor I expected that I would. Hindustan Lever, just like this institute, set the foundation of values and ethics in me, which I'm really, really grateful for. I've been fortunate to work at Bharti Airtel as it revolutionized India through telecom. I led Star and Disney in India and spent a decade in a content and marketing company. A mechanical engineer leading a cutting-edge content company and being part of some of the most exciting projects that we could think of. To name a few, Satyamev Jayate, which got India to reflect. Launch of Hotstar, which shaped the digital revolution for media companies globally, making kabaddi cool in a country obsessed with cricket. And today leading Google India, being part of a team which is solving for connecting the next billion users and making technology work to improve health of a billion Indians and educate many of our children. I have nothing but gratitude for this journey. Especially I had little influence on the waypoints. The creation of IMC in 1961. My time spent 30 years later in this institute. The journey through the best of companies, an exciting idea that each company pioneered. My parents, my friends, my wife Ruchi and son Aman, and above all, this great country called India, and the moment that I have been in. I'm grateful to all of them. They all happened to me. These forces and influences that in many ways I had little control over. Through all the changes that life presented, my epiphany has been simply this: embrace and commit. I believe life joins many dots. The only thing we can do is be all in. Jump forward 60 years from the foundation to today, arguably the most disruptive time of our lives. The COVID-19 pandemic spurred us into adopting new ways to live and quickly transitioned our society into what our Prime Minister refers to as India's decade. You may not see it just yet, but you, all of you, the students here, are standing at one of the most defining junctures of our lives. You are the present and the architect of India's future. Find problems to solve and know what you solve for India, you will solve for the world. Who knows? Maybe the next Apple or the next Google might emerge from this very room. So my call to you is be purposeful in whatever you do and then pursue it with courage. Be all in. I wish all the students here every success as you navigate through the change and the new. And also my deepest gratitude goes to the team at Iim Calcutta as they propel their students onward and upward. In closing, allow me to leave you with a prayer that rings true for me every day. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Once again, thank you for this honor, and my best wishes to each one of you. Thank you. And I will take my seat kindly now after this.
Thank you, sir. May I now request Professor Manish Thakur to kindly announce the fourth awardee this evening.
The awardee is Dr. Anindo Ghosh.
May I request Sri Krishna Kulkarni, Chairman, Board of Governors, to hand over the Distinguished Alumnus Award and citation scroll to Dr. Ghosh. Thank you, sir. May I request Professor Nandini Roy to come on stage and read the citation for Dr. Ghosh.
Hi, good evening everyone, it's Nandita. We take immense pleasure today in honoring Dr. Anindo Ghosh, an alumnus of the 33rd batch of Iim Calcutta, for his exceptional contributions to the field of academia through teaching and research. Dr. Ghosh is the Heinz Ryle Chair Professor of Technology and Marketing at New York University's Leonard N. Stern School of Business, where he holds a joint appointment in the TOPS and marketing departments. He is also the author of TAP, Unlocking the Mobile Economy, which is a double winner in the 2018 Axiom Business Book Awards and has been translated into 5 languages. He is the director of the Masters of Business Analytics program at NYU Stern. He's a Leonard Stern faculty scholar with an MBA scholarship called the Ghosh Scholarship, named after him, and has been a visiting professor at the Wharton School of Business. His impact as a successful educator and researcher is immense. In 2014, he was named by Poets and Quants as one of the top 40 professors under 40 worldwide, and by Analytics Week as one of the top 200 thought leaders in big data and business analytics. He is the youngest recipient of the prestigious Informs ISS Distinguished Fellow Award, given to recognize individuals who have made outstanding intellectual contributions to the discipline with publications that have significantly impacted theory, research, and practice, additionally of mentoring doctoral students and young researchers. In 2017, he was recognized by Thinkers 50 as one of the top management thinkers globally, most likely to shape the future of how organizations are managed and led in the next generation. Thinkers 50 also bestowed the Distinguished Achievement Award nomination for digital thinking in 2017. In 2019, he was recognized by the Web of Science Citation Index in the top 1% of researchers selected for their significant influence in their fields over 10 years, from 2008 to 2018. He also received the NYU Stern Distinguished Teaching Award in 2019. In 2020, he was recognized by the Informs Information Systems Society with the inaugural Practical Impacts Award. This award honors business school academics who have profoundly influenced practitioners, managers, executives, and policymakers using their academic research. In 2021, he was named as a top 10 business influencer, along with Elon Musk, Mark Cuban, Sheryl Sandberg, and a few others by the University of Florida. His rise from assistant to full professor in 8.5 years at NYU Stern is widely regarded as one of the fastest in the history of several disciplines in business schools globally. He has been retained as an expert witness by some of the biggest law firms in the world, including Gibson Dunn, Kirkland Ellis, Freshfields Bruckhaus, Sherman and Sterling, and has provided expert testimony in some of the most high-profile and closely watched litigation trials and depositions in financial securities, intellectual property, antitrust and competition, trademark and copyright infringement, valuation, and merger appraisal cases. These include Tinder versus Match Valuation lawsuit, TD Bank versus Stanford Ponzi scheme, the Facebook IPO matter, the Verizon AOL merger appraisal matter, the Federal Trade Commission's antitrust case against 1800 Contacts, the case of the counterfeit goods against Amazon, and the interactive music streaming royalty case between Apple, Amazon, Google, Spotify, and the Copyright Royalty Board. He is affiliated as a scientific expert with Compass Lexicon. He has consulted in various capacities for Alibaba, Apple, Berkeley Corporation, CBS, Facebook, Google, HR Ratings Mexico, IBM, Microsoft, NBC Universal, Samsung, Snapchat, TD Bank, Tinder, Yahoo, 1800 Contacts, and many other leading firms on realizing business value from IT investments, internet marketing, business analytics, mobile marketing, digital analytics, social media, and other areas. He is an advisor to startups in the US, India, Hong Kong, Netherlands, South Korea, Singapore, and China. He is also an advisor to Scale Asia Ventures, a B2B VC fund in the USA. Dr. Ghosh's research analyzes the economic consequences of the internet and mobile tech on industries and markets transformed by its shared technology infrastructure. He has published more than 100 papers in premier scientific journals and peer-reviewed conferences, and has given over 300 talks internationally. He is a frequent keynote speaker in executive gatherings and thought-leading events worldwide. His research has received 27 Best Paper Awards and nominations. He is a winner of the NSF Career Award and has been awarded 16 grants from Google, Microsoft, Adobe, Marketing Science Institute, and several other corporations. He has directly advised or mentored more than 30 PhD students and postdocs who have now become professors. He has been interviewed by the BBC, Bloomberg TV, CNBC, The Guardian, Fox News, Newsweek, New York Times, Reuters, and others. He teaches courses on digital marketing and business analytics to executives in various parts of the world, including the US, China, South Korea, Taiwan, and Europe. He has served as a senior editor of Information Systems Research and is currently serving as the department editor of Management Science in the IS department. He received his MS and PhD from Carnegie Mellon University's Tepper School of Business. Also, he is an avid high-altitude mountaineer and has climbed in 5 continents. We acknowledge Dr. Ghosh's significant achievements as a scholar with enormous pride and bestow upon him the Institute's highest honor for its alumni, the Distinguished Alumni Award, given this 14th day of November, 2022.
Thank you. First of all, I have to apologize for the long bio. I didn't realize all of that would be read. I'd like to start by thanking the selection committee at Iim Calcutta for this absolutely huge award. I'm truly humbled, honored, delighted. I'd also like to thank my batchmates who have nominated me. Some of you are actually here, Prashant, Pankaj, Ritesh. This is such a momentous occasion, and it's even more joyful because I have my parents here, right here in front of me. So, and there are 2 other people who I would have loved for them to be here, my daughter and my wife. But when I asked my daughter that, would you be willing to come from New York to Calcutta for this event, she told me, but Daddy, I don't want to miss school. So they're not here, but Needless to say, I owe a deep sense of gratitude to all of them, especially to my wife, who has been a rock and a pillar in my life, and she has been instrumental in, pretty much every success I've had so far. I was asked by Professor Thakur to offer a few remarks, and I figured maybe I'll share a few tidbits about myself, especially because many of you young folks in the room, I can share something that I've learned from. So Iim Calcutta was, absolutely and enormously instrumental in my life in a variety of ways. First, of course, from the professors, I learned a lot. But there were two reasons that it really shaped my life. First, it taught me that by no means was I the smartest person in the room. And second, it also taught me that by no means was I the most charismatic person in the room. Okay? And the reason this is helpful is because as I started thinking about my career, I realized these two facets of exposure through Iim Calcutta are going to pave the way for what is yet to come. Okay? So let me make a confession. I am a big fan of movies. As many people watch movies for entertainment. I actually watch it for some learning as well. So in the movie Gladiator, when the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius told his own son, Commodus, that he's not going to be the emperor of Rome because he doesn't have the virtues that Marcus Aurelius believed are important, which is fortitude, patience, and wisdom, Commodus told his father, but father, I have other virtues. I have ambition, I have resourcefulness, and I have grit. And so what that movie taught me is that everybody's path to success is different, whatever that metric of definition is, right? So to me, my sort of recipe or formula for getting to where I was realizing way back early in Iim Calcutta that I will have two handicaps. I'm not going to be the most smartest or intelligent person in the room. I'm not the most charismatic leader in the room. So I have to overcome those two handicaps with other virtues. And I realized that often boiled out to an old-fashioned burning the midnight oil, which is diligence. So pretty much everything that I've done in my life has been based on this formula that 95% of that is diligence, which is working hard, and everything else is 5%. By no means is that the only formula. This is what's worked for me. Everybody has their own path. The other thing that I've also learned along the way, which again I'm taking the liberty to share, given that there are many, many young minds in the room, is not to conflate talent with luck. Okay? Many of you will go on to do phenomenal things in your life and your career. Okay? But at every step, when you achieve your milestones, it might be helpful for you to remember that luck and randomness has an important role, and it's not all talent and skill. The reason that's important, at least the reason it was important for me, is because when you realize and accept that fact, which is not to conflict skill with luck, it teaches you two things. First of all, it teaches you gratitude. For anything and everything that you have, you learn to be grateful because you realize it's not all because of you, not by any means. Okay? And second, it prevents you from being complacent. Okay? Even though you might be achieving some of the highest pinnacles of your career, it's a good idea to remember Steve Jobs' formula, which is stay hungry, stay foolish. So every time you sort of decide and you realize that there are many things that will happen to you, not just because of your own skill or talent, it at least has helped me in my journey so far. The last thing I will say is, again, in the interest of keeping in mind what I've learned from Iim Calcutta and what many of you young people will actually also, go through is, don't judge a book by its cover. So when I joined Iim Calcutta, I was not from one of the elite Indian colleges. I went to a fairly, let's say, ordinary engineering institution. I did not come from the IITs or the BITS, Pilanis, and so on. But initially, while that was a bit of a shock because I was surrounded by uber smart people from some of these elite Indian colleges, I realized that, again, if I fall back on those two traits that I realized about myself, which is ambition, drive, tenacity, perseverance, discipline, and work ethic, you can actually overcome whatever hurdles society puts in front of you. Yeah? So as you become leaders of the next generation, give some people a chance who may not be coming from the brightest or the most elitist of institutions, because something I've learned in my sort of role outside of academia, working with some of the brightest minds in the law industry, in the VC world, in financiers, entrepreneurs, etc., is people come in all sizes and shapes, and it would be a mistake for us to judge them or brand them just based on where they're coming from. Okay? So with that, again, I'd like to thank Iim Calcutta, express my deep, deep gratitude for this enormous recognition. Again, thank you to everyone else who's here. Thank you to my friends who've flown from all over the country. Thank you to my parents. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you so much, sir. A heartfelt thanks to all our distinguished alumni who have made us proud and have honored us by accepting our token of appreciation, the Distinguished Alumnus Award. Moving on to the next leg of the program, we go to celebrate the Foundation Day. Foundation Day is a designated day on which celebrations mark the founding of an institution. It is an opportunity for an institution like ours to come together and celebrate the proud history with the faculty, students, and alum. It is significant not only because of the number of years it has served the community, but also it is a moment to connect the energy of this moment of remembrance. It is the chance to remind about the humble beginnings of the institution. Everything seems possible when we have each other to lean on and work together as a team. The Foundation Day of Iim Calcutta gives us the opportunity to acknowledge some of the tough times we have faced and the incredible ways we have bonded together as an institution. Every year, we celebrate our Foundation Day to commemorate the day when our institution was established. May I now invite Shri Krishna Kulkarni, Chairperson, Board of Governors of Iim Calcutta, to address the guests, introduce the chief guest, and invite him to deliver the Foundation Day lecture.
Namaskar to all of you. It's such a privilege to introduce Mr. Shyam Srinivasan, who's our chief guest. He's also a distinguished alum of Iim Calcutta. I have this wonderful task of introducing him. Shyam is a proud alumnus of this campus and is also a recipient of the Distinguished Alumnus Awards from both Iim Calcutta and NIT Tiruchirappalli, from where he did his engineering. Shyam took charge as the Managing Director and CEO of Federal Bank on 23rd September 2010. In his first annual report message after joining Federal, Shyam had mentioned, "As I settle into my role, I'm confident that our cherished dream of making our bank as one that delivers quality and consistency in results, exceeds the customer expectations, rewards its stakeholders profusely, and makes its competitors feel that here is a bank worth reckoning, will be a reality not far from now." And thus began the story of brand transformation of Federal from a regional private bank to a brand of significant national presence over the past 12 years. And the story interleaved with the vision of Shyam, who stayed the course with grit, passion, and a compounding effect of 1% improvement each day. Under his watch, Federal Bank transformed from a franchise with an annual profit of 587 crores to a quarterly profit of 704 crores. Under his leadership, the bank grew 5 times and crossed 3.35 trillion in business. Today, Federal Bank is the first bank in the country, perhaps the only one too, which got an exclusive green equity investment from the International Finance Corporation, World Bank's investment arm, and for its steadfast commitment to ESG standards. The several accolades which came their way, such as the Great Place to Work Institute or Private Sector Bank of the Year, is a clear testimony that Shyam is truly an institution builder. Who would believe that he also writes to all employees unfailingly every Sunday morning through his Yammer blog for the last 5 years almost. His self-coined mantra of digital at the fore, human at the core, which has since become the driving philosophy behind all the digitalization efforts of the bank. He has been conferred the following awards and recognitions in recent past. Business Standard Banker of the Year, 2020, India's top 50 best leaders in times of crises, 2021 by the Great Place of Work Institute, and the Greatest Corporate Leaders of India Award given by the World HRD Congress. Congratulations, Shyam. We are all very proud of you, and thank you for coming as a chief guest today. Ma'am, can I go ahead? Okay, yeah. What's her name? The lady. Okay. With the permission of the compere, I have the little difficult job of speaking to all of you, and I know I have been given 10 minutes, but the earlier people have given me a little more extra time. So, GM, Shrikant, Sanjay, and Anindya, with your permission, I may take a few minutes more. This is a talk which allows me to interact with my students also. And so I do sometimes pull rank and take the privilege of going over time. So Honorable Chief Guest Srinivasanji, distinguished alums, awardees, guests, members of Iim Calcutta, faculty, staff, students, and all those who are joining this session online via the internet. My pranams to all of you. Srinivasanji's mantra of digital at the fore and human to the core was the inspiration for my talk today. It's always difficult to decide what you should want to speak on. So I'm going to speak to you about a man who was known to be an excellent communicator and who continues to captivate the national and international psyche. And we regularly question, even today, the relevance of his philosophy and his humanity. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, or Gandhiji as the nation knows him, was my great-grandfather. I grew up in an atmosphere of annual summer visits to Sevagram Ashram near Wardha, and listening to my parents talking to people such as Vinoba Bhave, Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan, the frontier Gandhi, Maniben Patel, daughter of Sardar Patel, Ramdas Gandhi, my grandfather, and many more. Now, as I grew up and experienced situations in my own life, I felt the urge to try and understand Gandhiji, the human being. I wanted to analyze him with an aim to understand for myself the relevance of Gandhian principles and Gandhian thought and his leadership style and the efficacy of his humanity and human values. So today I wish to analyze Gandhiji's leadership style and the relevance of these qualities and principles. So I will take the following approach. First, I must try to understand his roots, the roots that nourished him and gave him the values that make up his foundations. As you would have noticed, each one of our distinguished alumni awardees spoke about their roots, their foundation, their values, and what they picked up along the way. Having done that, I will try to analyze his leadership style, because all of you are going to be not just managers, but leaders, and I think many of you are not just leaders, you're also statesmen in your own fields and areas and geographies. So this is an institute which is distinctly a crucible where statesmen are molded. So it's just in line that I try to analyze. It's a difficult task. So for this, let me take a quick step back in history and cull out what I consider is significant. Gandhiji's mother, Putliba, was the most significant influence in his life. She was a deeply pious woman who came from tradition that followed the Bhagavad Gita and the Vedas. They were Vaishnavas. She would take the hardest of the vows and keep them without flinching. He studied law and jurisprudence at the University College London. University of London, and at the age of 22 in 1891, he was called to the bar and he became a barrister. But what is less known is that in 1891, armed with this British law degree, he began practicing in Bombay, and his earnings were such a pittance that he could barely support himself and his family. And he failed miserably in his practice. This is less known or less talked about. He was also a very unsure and a shy communicator. His communication skills did not make any mark at all. It was the hard reality of the need to earn a living that prompted him to accept an offer to go to South Africa. In South Africa, what is generally well known is that he experienced racial discrimination and other injustices, which is well documented, well known. For example, being brutally, physically assaulted, being thrown out of a train at Pietermaritzburg, and many more such personal experiences. I'm not going to mention them. These were the triggers that aroused the activist leader in him, and he was traumatized. He wanted to fight back. For the first time, he began to think of his social duty. This is going to touch each one of us. In each one of our lives, you will have situations when you will feel traumatized, you would want to fight back, and you will start thinking at that time about your social duties. I'm sure each one of these distinguished awardees went through that. So what happens when this happens? So he needed to reach out to others like him who were suffering. He needed their active support. He would have to learn to communicate with them. So less known fact about him is he's Gujarati, but in those days in South Africa, most of the indentured labor were Tamilians. He learned and taught himself how to speak Tamil. And he would have to win their trust. Very, very important for leaders, managers, statesmen. So it would be correct to say that the foundation of Gandhiji's life philosophy was the ancient Sanatan Dharma, and Gandhiji was deeply influenced by the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. He says that himself, and the Vedas and the Upanishads. So what does Sanatan mean? Sanatan means beyond the time dimension, timeless, one that has no beginning and no end. And dharma, most people will tell you that dharma would be defined as religion, but I personally over the years have rejected this definition of dharma as religion. I'm more inclined to define it akin to our obligations, and which are both personal and social in nature. So Sanatan Dharma is the dharma which talks about the obligations of a human being personally and socially. The sum total of what can be included as human values. The word Hindu is, of course, as you all know, it's a non-native origin and does not appear in any of our spiritual scriptures. This is just factual stuff I'm sharing. So now I graduate to the leadership style. As I explore Gandhiji's leadership style, and all of you here, many of you who are students of management may also wish to enumerate the qualities for leadership in the 21st century. So keep it at the back of your head, and you can check on it as I go along. These are my thoughts. So I wish to pick up what I believe to be the essential qualities that went into his leadership style. It'll be my attempt to also try and analyze if these qualities are relevant or irrelevant today. This way you can yourself come up with the answer to the often asked question, is Gandhi relevant today? So let me walk you through the key qualities. So the first one, his foundation was in Sanatan Dharma, a law that takes into account the need for dignity and respect for all of creation. So the first question I posed to myself was, if in this century there is a need for us, our leaders, our statesmen, to uphold the dignity and respect of all creation. Therefore, the question is this quality relevant or irrelevant? The next one, Gandhiji built on his innate nature, which was grounded in compassion towards all forms of life. Is the ability to be compassionate relevant or irrelevant? Is this a trait? So I leave that to you. When he was faced with brutal discrimination, he surely would have wondered if he should stay back and fight or go back home. Now, going back home would be cowardice. So he surely needed to overcome fear. To be an effective leader, is there a need to overcome fear? So therefore the question is, overcoming fear, is this relevant or irrelevant? To fight for a cause, he needed to collaborate with others. He needed their active support. In the 21st century, is the need to collaborate relevant or irrelevant? Now I'm putting collaboration as against competition. So we know how to compete, but do we really know how to collaborate? And is it relevant? Okay. The next one is to win their trust, he had to effectively communicate. To effectively communicate, his intentions to help had to be selfless. Alok, just let the dog be. Just let it be. It's doing nothing to anybody. Just let it be. Okay? So the thing is, to win the trust, he had to learn how to effectively communicate. To effectively communicate, his intentions to help had to be selfless. Are effective communication and the need to be selfless relevant or irrelevant traits in leaders today? He needed to gain contemporary knowledge of the problems faced by the very people he wanted to help. So he worked very hard to gain domain knowledge through reading voraciously. So to be effective, do leaders need to have domain knowledge? Ask yourself if this trait is relevant or irrelevant. And I think both Shrikant, Sanjay, as also Anindya touched on that in their own way. He also held wide-ranging discussions with stakeholders as also with thought leaders. For example, he wrote to Leo Tolstoy and John Ruskin directly. These teachers gave him a reasoned basis for his philosophy, which helped cement his convictions. Therefore, is the need to discuss with stakeholders and thought leaders relevant or irrelevant? He experienced the problems firsthand himself by submitting himself to the same situation. So again, is experiencing a problem firsthand yourself by immersing yourself in a problem a relevant or an irrelevant trait for leaders or successful leaders? He sought the root causes of what prompted exploitation of one human being by another. Is seeking root causes therefore a relevant or an irrelevant trait? Now, he realized, let me explain, he realized that for the economically poor citizens, always labor with their own hands for earning their living was the only option. For an economically underprivileged person, working with your own hands was the only option. They didn't have a choice. They had no choice but to be self-reliant. The word for self-reliance in Hindi is swavalamban, as a means to, so he is the one who propounded that be self-reliant is a means to reduce oppression and exploitation. Now this is easy to understand if you just extend this logic. So the thing is, as our self-reliance increases, the oppressive use of others to fulfill our needs reduces in direct proportion. This became one of the central pillars of his social and economic philosophy. Therefore, is the need for self-reliance, even at the national level. Today we talk about, and Dr. Jaishankar earlier this month spoke about Atmanirbhar Bharat. Is it relevant or irrelevant? We can decide that. Each one of you decide it in your own heart. Gandhiji contended that the basis of human society was not wealth, rather the wealth of human society is human compassion. So then, is there a need for a leader to be compassionate? Is it relevant, irrelevant? He contended that the root cause for social injustice and inequality was inequitable possession of wealth and power which are selfish in nature. So is this contention of his relevant or irrelevant? So in South Africa, he experimented with this evolving philosophy and beliefs and put them into practice in his own life. He was a hands-on man. Therefore, is being hands-on relevant or irrelevant? He practiced what he preached. You would notice if you read about him or try to find out, he was not just the initiator, but very often he was the lead doer. So as a leader, to initiate something, if you see as Shyam's bio says, he's not just the lead initiator, he's the lead doer. He's still communicating every Sunday. That takes effort. It reads very effortlessly, but for him to go through the Yammer blog and write something to so he's the lead initiator and the lead doer. The story goes same with Shrikant, with Anindya, with Sanjay. So there are 4 of our own colleagues who show this, and Gandhiji also did the same. Now, the next point is selfless actions require discipline and moral courage. Sanjay spoke about discipline. Anindya spoke about discipline and also moral courage. Now, such actions, those who are instilled with discipline and moral courage, such actions always generate tremendous energy, confidence, and fearlessness in the doer. A leader must be fearless of a superior power, of an imminent danger, or of undesirable outcomes. Leaders need to be fearless to these outcomes. You may end up with an undesirable outcome, but if you start cutting your cloth to the undesirable outcome, you'll never be able to move. So think about these. There are no prescriptions here, I'm just sharing. Ask yourselves if being fearless to be an effective leader, is it relevant? To practice what he preached and to live with simplicity required Gandhiji to continuously experiment and review his philosophy and actions. Is the ability to review our own selves relevant or irrelevant if you have to be a leader? Now, in seeking a true understanding of issues, which all of you, all those leaders who have been there, and I have the courage to say so because I have experienced it myself, I find that in seeking a true understanding of issues, one has to be able to apply one's mind without the prejudices of our own beliefs, And Gandhiji was good at this. That means he was able to apply his mind without the prejudices of his own beliefs. This state of mind, in my belief, is a very uncommon state. And therefore, again, is this ability essential in understanding the true nature of issues? Is it relevant or irrelevant? So it was not just about comprehending the truth, but also practicing the truth. This is what prompted his belief that truth should always be sought, no matter how unpopular. Again, should you always seek the truth if you're a leader and put in such a situation? Is it relevant or irrelevant? So this is why in 1906 he coined the word satyagraha. Most of you know satyagraha, but if you talk about satyagraha in India's context, many of you will think it is just sitting on a strike, on a dharna on the crossroads. Well, actually, satyagraha is joining of two words, satya and agra, which is in English insistence of the truth. Now, my own take on what Gandhiji meant with satyagraha was, yes, insist about the truth, no doubt, but it cannot be by any means. You can't put a gun on somebody's head and say, I'm insisting on the truth. So I spin it by putting a filter there by saying, we should seek the truth, but assume that God is your witness, whoever that God is, Then you're probably seeking the truth in the means by which it should be sought. And by 1925, he had successfully conceptualized a fearless philosophy driven by selflessness. He articulated it beautifully as the 7 social sins, which are at the core of social iniquity, injustice, and oppression. I'm not going to read them, but they go something like wealth without work, pleasure without conscience, knowledge without character, etc. His own life and approach were exceedingly simple and transparent. So to the younger generation here and those who don't know, there were no secrets, no secret strategies, no secret meetings, no secret communications, no secret agendas. His agenda was known to all, even to his adversaries. So our simplicity of needs and transparency in actions are the relevant traits for being an effective leader. So by living a transparent life, he was open to public scrutiny. Now, he used transparencies as a means to keep himself to the narrow, selfless path that every seeker of truth must walk. He tried not to be attached to anything, not to thoughts, not to decisions, not to ideas, not even to his own views. Given the knowledge of data and circumstances, he was open to review his opinion and his stance. Now, is that ability a relevant or an irrelevant ability need for a leader? He never used threats to convey his ideas, nor did he use the weaknesses or negative aspects of his opponents to promote his argument and philosophy. Now, this is revolutionary in today's world. You may want to, I'm just putting it out there, think about it. How many of us have the courage not to use the other person's weaknesses or negative aspects? By continuously practicing what he preached, he was able to achieve significant harmony between his thoughts, words, and deeds. This instilled in him extraordinary courage of convictions. His constituency, the people, always sensed this selflessness and fearlessness. And that's probably why they trusted him and had faith in him. So, is Gandhiji's style, approach, leadership style, qualities, are they relevant, irrelevant? I leave it for you to decide. Leaders must be able to communicate effectively, but you'll find very often leaders are unable. Not every leader is able to communicate ineffectively. And my own experience is that inability to communicate clearly is very often driven by situations where the communicator is compelled to communicate views contrary to their own beliefs. That is at the core of lack of communication. There is nobody who cannot communicate effectively. Each one of us has the divine gift to be able to communicate. But when this discrepancy happens between our core beliefs and what we're being asked to say, that's when the communication starts opening up at the seams. Now, finally, as I wrap up, Gandhiji always went to the source for information. Example, he wrote to John Ruskin and Leo Tolstoy. Similarly, to all of you here, students, please do not rely on interpretations of Gandhiji by other people, not even by me. Please go to the source of the information. In any problems that you're doing, try as often as possible, go to the source. For Gandhiji, the source, of course, he is dead and gone, we can't talk to him, but the source for me was the collected works of Gandhi. Analyze him yourself. Don't take what I say, analyze him yourself. I also regularly hear the phrase Gandhian principles, Gandhian thought, Gandhian ideals, but in reality, Gandhiji's thoughts and ideals are borrowed entirely from the Vedas, Upanishads, and the Bhagavad Gita. He himself asserted that he has nothing new to say. Whatever he has to say are as old as the trees in the mountains. So in my humble opinion, it's incorrect of us to attempt to redefine the principles of Sanatana Dharma as Gandhian principles. Again, this is my view. I put it up for all of you to decide yourself. In my personal belief, Gandhiji amply demonstrated the efficacy of human values in managing complex situations to achieve sustained results. He was, by the way, he was considered a political man, but my view, after studying him as a human being, he was a serious spiritual aspirant who was thrust into a socio-political role. He was human, he made mistakes. I thought, should I use the word glaring mistakes? Of course, I have the benefit of 75 years of hindsight, so I will just leave it at mistakes. But in the net, he delivered amply on the tasks entrusted to him. I know you will have many questions. I hope I have left you with tools for your own inquiry. And in closing, I would also like to say that the need for incorporating human values in management is being felt by humanity today more than ever before. And Iim Calcutta, I believe, is truly poised to can become a global leader in filling this gap. Before I end, I do want to say that to all my alumni friends, and you all will agree, all of them actually have already agreed, that IIMC and the education they received here and the experiences they garnered here have had significantly been instrumental in their career development. Now, one of the surest signs of a sense of human values is when people start showing that they have an ability and desire to give back. Each one of the distinguished alums said, we want to give back. So I'm going to take on that. It's just my job and my privilege as chair of the board to tell each one of you who is listening here and across through the internet that please give back to Iim Calcutta. While Iim Calcutta is able to generate revenues to meet our costs, all you finance guys will understand that. But I'm going to put a spin to that. We need all your help so that all your help, whatever you can consider, to provide us so that we can meet our aspirations. I think meeting our costs is just the bare minimum. But talk to us, talk to colleagues, talk to alums. I'm sure you also have aspirations for Iim Calcutta, and reach back to us, get back to us, and help us so that we go beyond meeting our costs to meeting our aspirations. Thank you very much for your patience. Jai Hind. Shyam, so I'm going to invite you. Welcome. Give us your talk.
How do I use this? Just bring it to the first slide. This one? Must be, I don't know.
do I transition? To go to the next slide, click what? This one, is it? Thank you. Good evening. I can understand what Sanjay mentioned. Nothing much has changed from my time to your time to now. Holding a class is difficult, Sanjay, right? And that too at 6 p.m. in the evening to have an audience. You may think that it's a long PowerPoint presentation. I promise you it is not, right? So I hope I get your time this evening. Good afternoon, good evening. In June 1986, when a few of us, then strangers, boarded the Coromandel Express from Chennai to Calcutta, we didn't realize that we were actually starting off on a journey, which is one heck of a journey and something that's been one filled with amazing friendships, great life lessons, some sobering moments, but most importantly, gave me a chance to be here today and addressing the Foundation Day on the 62nd Foundation Day as a speaker. So certainly honored and blessed, and thank you for having me here this evening. Chairman, Board of Governors, Sri Krishna Kulkarni, Director, Professor Uttam Kumar, Dean, Mr. Manish Thakur, Dean Bhaskar, distinguished alumni, friends, young students, family members, everybody, thank you very much for having me this evening. It is a pleasure. And to our 4 distinguished alumni, it is a big shout out. When I heard the citations, it was clear why you are here this evening. So heartiest congratulations and compliments to each of you. When I was thinking about what I should be saying this evening, many thoughts crossed my mind. Having been a banker for a greater part of more than 3 decades, the usual temptation is to talk about economy, digital trends, the various developments that are happening, and of course, in the current world, conversations around inflation, interest rates, challenges, recession, you name it. I did think about it, and I realized one of the awardees is from Google, so there's a good chance that everybody will Google and try and find out, and realize that you all know much more about all these developments. So I sort of banished that thought and said, let me try and talk about things that hopefully are born out of my personal experiences and what I have come to understand. And like all the previous speakers, this is family. Once you come to Iim Calcutta, whether as a young student or coming back as a distinguished alumni or as an opportunity that I have today, just entering the gates of Iim Calcutta is transformational, right? Irrespective of mosquitoes or otherwise, it's just the spirit of it just engulfs you. So, like I said, having banished that thought, I decided to use the time you've given me to share some of my thoughts and experiences on how our beloved institution influences our soul and what lessons it imparts to us, most important, by contemplating on what the external world expects of us as IMCNs. And also imagine the perpetual contribution the Institute makes to the world beyond the campus. I must confess, while the audience is kind of mixed and the DAs and professors, I have targeted much of my conversation to our younger students who are diminishing by the minute, to the younger students, or to share some of the thoughts and experiences. 2 years ago, this event, I'm told, was offline. Last year was hybrid. And today it's literally unmasked and in front of us. Thankfully, I don't see anybody with a mask. So this is just symbolic of the fact that we have come through very challenging times. And I think these, what seemed like insurmountable headwinds, have clearly been overcome. But the Russia-Ukraine war and the consequent general challenges that have prevailed suggest that headwinds come and go. Headwinds and tailwinds come and go. But I do believe that it is our innate horsepower that is the strongest missile in our armory. So this evening, I intend talking to you about, just provided the slides work, talking to you about horsepower and not tailwinds that differentiate leaders and otherwise. So this is really about horsepower and tailwinds. So let me just take you to a story which I'm sure most of us are familiar in one form or the other. Around 18 years back in 2004, a young girl, all of 12 years old, went up to her cousin who was a hedge fund manager, a young hedge fund manager, and had a great passion for teaching, and sobbed to her about her weakness in mathematics and talked about how she was struggling to get by. The teacher in this young man encouraged her to say, okay, I will teach you. And he used the then prevailing techniques like Yahoo Messenger and doodles and whatever have you, and was able to use all the technology of those times, and was a good teacher, and she started liking mathematics. And the large family that they were, about 15 of the cousins, suddenly started getting distance tutored. To this young man, that was an aha moment. He figured that if I can do this to 15 members in my family, I can do it to the whole world. And so thus was born what today we know as Khan Academy, and that gentleman was Salman Khan, who is with one computer, one man, one dream, started touching 135 million lives. And as all of us know, you know what happened in with Khan Academy. Some of you may have watched this incredible series called The Most Dangerous Ways to School. I think that was a painful reminder of the difficulties children face in just getting to school. So I think Khan pioneering taking the classroom to the learner, as well as to the families who could not afford to give their children even primary schooling, was something quite special. Interested in this, I started reading a little more about Khan Academy, and I came across a quote by a young Afghan girl, Sultana, and I quote, "Had I never come across it, my life would be like millions of other little Afghan girls stuck in the cage of ignorance. Thank you for helping me free the cage." I've talked about Khan Academy at length to make a case in point. Let me draw your attention to, I think that is something quite special. If all of you look at the screen there, Jnanam Sarvahitaya, this knowledge for the benefit of all, is the motto of the campus. I do hope all of us know that this is the motto of Iim Calcutta. To be honest, I didn't know till very early, right? So I think, let me just talk about, you recognize this, the motto, and so if Khan Academy was one fine example, I think the professors here are no less. They are another fine example of how they selflessly share their learnings to the betterment of all of us. So I think Jnanam, knowledge, being channels of knowledge demands that we stay alert to being students all our lives, as well as sharing both what it does to us, it sharpens and of course gives us immeasurable fulfillment. But it's not about Jnanam alone. I would urge you to look at the second word, Sarvahitaya, which is for the betterment of all. How can we ensure that all our knowledge and skills, all that we absorb, is being put to use for the betterment of the universe, is what I think the founders of this campus were bold visionaries who built this institution not merely to teach us to maximize the next quarter's profit or the share price increase or look at things like gaining market share, but to imbue us with expansive and inclusive values that truly can define what we can take to the world. So they were wise men and women who intuitively knew that the highest of Maslow's hierarchy, self-actualization, can only be met when such a spirit touches our everyday activities. If we are true to this lofty motto in our lives, I believe we would have been true ambassadors of this institute. So much for ethos. Let me talk to you about some action. I believe there's a Salman in all of us, lurking in all of us. We all sincerely think we have ideas that can change the world. Very often, we are restless about the environment and around us and want to make changes. I think it was Thomas Edison who said famously, "Vision without expectations is nothing but hallucination." To some of us who've been in the campus, at least in my time, there was a lingo that used to be there, which actually described this hallucination. I don't know if the word prevails yet, called halu, right? I don't know if it prevails in the campus yet, but I can see some of my seniors nodding their heads, so probably the word died somewhere, but halu brilliantly described this experience of chilling out and not being accountable for the outcome. So more about it when we do the Q&A. Likewise, in our times, there used to be something called colloquia sessions. I don't know if they are yet there, where eminent people used to come and speak. And one such speaker in my time was Baron Swaraj Paul. And Baron Paul, after his speech, there was this after speech dinner in the EDP Center, which is just next to the old hostel. And a few of us were invited to be at the dinner, and I don't know what process led to it. I was seated next to him. Being the young, enthusiastic, class participation type, I wanted to sort of soak content from him, and I was busy quizzing him on business models, on talking to him about strategy, and giving him probably what I thought was very, very clever wisdom. He stopped me on my tracks, and I do recall quite distinctly some of the words he mentioned. And let me quote some of those as I sort of cobbled those thoughts together. Young man, an idea and its execution are two inseparable factors like cause and effect. But sadly, you MBA graduates allow your education to come in the way of your success. And he also added, focus on this presentation fever is a serious problem. Please start focusing on execution. And long after that, I put this thought from .ppt to .exe. And I think these words have remained with me till that, and as a leader, I still remind myself every day and my team very regularly that good business planning is fine, but it's 9 parts execution and just 1 part strategy. And I repeat, 90% of success is execution and 10% is strategy. These words, like I mentioned, have remained with me, and I think .ppt to .exe. It's ironical that I'm talking about EXE with a PPT presentation, but that's just the way to express. But the short point is just focus. And I did think one of our alumni, I think it was Anindya, was mentioned that, sort of diligence. I think you mentioned about diligence, and I completely agree with that thought. I would encourage all of us to be obsessed with this, and if you will, this is your second takeaway from my speech. Moving on, another topic that's been very close to my heart, and which is, at many times, I've used that as choices, and I do ask all students, particularly the Indian Institute of Management, can we contribute to the development of India in our careers? And I heard Chairman BOG speak about it. How can we contribute to India in our careers, right? And I think that's quite significant considering the horsepower that each of us possess and can bring to the world. We often hear that India is running the software of tomorrow on the hardware of yesterday. The closest and probably the coolest Indian equivalent of the word innovation is certainly Jugaad. We are a proud Jugaad nation. The principles of frugality and flexibility are ingrained in us from the very beginning. Like my friends in Karnataka say, Solpa adjust madi yaar, right? So I think we have that in our system. We're famous for using the laptop screens for shaving. We're famous for using iron boxes to make Maggi. We're famous for ensuring that cycles generate electricity, and there are many such hacks. But I think all this, in the toughest of circumstances, that one finds innovative solutions. Like as they famously say, necessity is the mother of invention. As you know, the country has adopted Atmanirbhar Bharat as our guiding principle. Our startups, like all of us have spoken, and I think Srikanth is at the cutting edge of it, our startups are leaving a strong impression on the world, and we have a huge startup ecosystem. As leaders who are going to shape the next 50 years, I feel I must use this opportunity to broaden your vision from Atmanirbhar Bharat to Bharat Pe Nirbhar. This is my we are a pharmacy of the world. We talk about being granary to the planet. We talk about software power for humanity. All these are epithets that I use to describe India today. We have the potential to develop many frugal innovations and make the planet Bharat Pe Nirbhar. If you build your horsepower and strengthen the core in your respective domains, you will certainly discover the bespoke and unique solutions to make Bharat Pe Nirbhar a reality. I have spoken to you about 3 themes. One is the whole idea of Jnanam Sarvamitya. I did speak to you about the idea of whole moving away from the PowerPoint fever to an execution about creating Bharat Nirbhar. I'd now talk to you about sustainability and building something that's lasting, and above all, being institution builders. Recently, I came across this wonderful Japanese terminology called daisugi. I don't know how many of you have seen it. Having sort of became curious about what daisugi is, I did the normal thing, Googled, Sanjay, thank you. And I figured that back in the 1500s, the physically small country that Japan is faced shortage of logs and land to cultivate trees, even it relied on timber for everything. The ingenious Japanese came up with a creative solution of growing additional trees out of existing trees, creating a sense of a giant bonsai, yielding a sustainable harvest of timber from every single tree. The idea is not to talk about forestry techniques and climate change, that's for another session, but I wanted to point out daisugi as a beautiful idea that defines being mindful of what lies beyond our vision. And I think that's where I want to remind ourselves that the purpose of leadership is to build lasting organizations and for leaders to be institution builders. Thank you, Professor, you and Mr. Kulkarni. You did mention about Federal Bank's institution building. I do think longevity and building institutions trump everything, and everybody comes out of this campus should certainly consider the option of not being a fly-by-night, but building lasting organizations that lives long after us. And importantly, we, like I mentioned, coming out of the portals of Iim Calcutta, we are obliged to make sure that we are doing something for social good. So I think building institutions I would harp on as being crucial, and building the values that construct that are something that I'd want everybody to consider. Finally, a few words will say. You've already got your passport when you enter this campus. However, the visa is getting stamped when you leave campus. Choose your destinations wisely. Remember, we live life forward, but always understand it backwards. You'll probably recall that I started my session by talking about a train journey where some managers were on board with me. Some strangers were on board with me. Of course, they didn't stay strangers for long. Over 10 of them were batches and have turned out to be my best friends. Some of them are there in this hall. But one of the strangers even transitioned from being a co-passenger to a fellow lifelong traveler. Yes, my wife Maya too was on the train, and I haven't left her on the journey ever since. If she is listening, I want to put a shout out to her. This is not to talk about my romance, but rather to share that some of the people who are around you here will be your best friends forever and add to your horsepower. And here I do want to play one of my favorite title tracks. Yeah, I didn't realize it didn't stop. I do want to sort of play this title. I'm sure you recognize this from Friends, the popular sitcom. It's about lasting friendships and building stronger bonds. Use this line, live it, and watch the magic that unfolds. As leaders, when your team hears you say, "I'll be there for you," you know that your job is half done. It builds trust and togetherness and energizes all to rally around the organization's goal. Go out and make sure that they indeed hear, "I'll be there for you," or in our good old Bollywood style, "Mehuna." Young leaders, get set, go set your direction, otherwise someone else will do it for you. Find your watershed moment and make bold forays into it. I didn't realize I had such an impact that... Find your watershed moment and make bold forays into it, building your horsepower, for as they say, one who waits gets the tailwind, but one who rows gets to the harbor. Your tailwinds may bump up your efforts, but your core should be ready to absorb the gear shift, and for that, you need to be ready to pack 400 horsepower and into a two-cylinder engine and yet not explode. So let me just sort of bring this to a close by saying, just recall the points I mentioned. Jnanam Sarvahataya, from .ppt to .exe, Daisugi, Atmanirbhar Bharat, and I'll be there for you. I don't know, the more perceptive of you will figure this out. This is what the JD Master Yoda said, right? Do or do not, there is no try. And just coincidence that these alphabets stitch up to that. And so prepare well for your visa to be stamped. As Yoda famously said, do or do not, there is no try. And finally, on Children's Day today, don't forget to celebrate your childhood, which is really a bank of memories. Always remember and remain the curious, wide-eyed kid. Thank you for being a wonderful audience. May the force be with you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your inspiring words. We'll definitely get a visa stamped, sir. May I now request Professor Director to kindly come and moderate the session.
Good evening. We may have time for a couple of questions from the audience. I'd request you to first identify yourself and then ask the question. Student volunteers will pass on the mic if needed.
So, hello sir, I'm Sajeshri from the 59th batch, MBA. So, I just wanted to ask you about Bharat Pe Nirbhar. It's not a very familiar thought. This is the first time I'm coming across this. So, what went in your mind when you actually initiated this thought? Is it the first time are you coining it this, or is there any background to it? Bharat Pe Nirbhar is very inspiring for the future students here. So, we'd like to hear more about that.
Thank you so much. Yes, it was something that me and a colleague of mine, we were thinking about, because Atmanirbhar Bharat has been spoken about. It's now part of our sort of guiding principle. It's something that we are keen, and I'm personally very keen, that if the next century belongs to us, and most of you must have read a Morgan Stanley report recently, this decade is ours, right? And if you want this decade to be ours, we have to literally, people had to break doors to come into India. And nothing more valuable than making the world dependent on us for the horsepower that we bring to it. So Bharat Pe Nirbhar was born out of that, and I do hope it catches fire. Thank you for observing that. Thank you.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
You should be a pioneer leading it. I'd be very happy. Write to me sometime and tell me what you've done about it.
Sure, sir.
There's somebody there?
Hello, yeah. So I'm Adnan Chaudhary from the 58th batch. So I have seen Federal Bank is actually implementing Daisugi in a lot of their scholarship schemes. So are there any plans to expand it even further?
Like, for MBA graduates and stuff like that?
Not only that, so you all have a lot of pre-metric and post-metric.
Yes. We target the programs largely for children or students of relatively lower privileged communities, and from districts or locations which are not mainstream or are tier 3 and beyond, because that's where we think opportunities are less, but we do offer professional programs too. And we've increased the number of scholarships this year. We do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you very much.
May I request Shri Krishna Kulkarni ji, Chairman BOG, to hand over a shawl and memento to the chief guest, Shri Shyam Srinivasan.
May I now invite Shri Alok Chandra, the Chief Administrative Officer, to come to the dais and announce the names of the Iim Calcutta employees who entered 25th year of their services this year.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On the occasion of the Institute's Foundation Day, as a custom, we felicitate our faculty, officers, and staff who have entered into their 25th year of service with the Institute. It is indeed a proud moment for all of us to honor these employees who have contributed immensely towards the growth and development of our Institute. It is due to their untiring efforts that we stand today with our place as one of the premier management institute of the country. I would now like to request our Director, Sir, Professor Uttam Kumar Sarkar, to present to our esteemed employees a token of appreciation and remembrance for the yeoman service to the Institute. This year, we have 3 employees who have entered into their 25th year of service. I would request Srimati Aarti Das to come on stage and accept the felicitation. I would now request Shri Mohan Charan Jena to come on stage and accept the felicitation. I would now request Shri Shambhuram to come on stage and accept the felicitation. Thank you, Professor Sarkar. Thank you so much.
The 2022 Foundation Day celebration is a culmination of efforts of several individuals. May I now request Professor Bhaskar Chakrabarti, Dean Academics, to propose the vote of thanks.
Uttamda initially talked about our international accreditation, and our partnership with SEMS, these agencies often ask, what is so unique about Iim Calcutta? And we usually tell them that it's because the Iim Calcutta family is very close to the grassroots, something which Mr. Srinivasan was referring to. It is this unique characteristic that we see in our alumni, our students, staff, faculty, members of our board of governors, everyone. This is the chemistry of the institute that Mr. Srinivasan, you talked of. You brought about the value of building lasting organizations and doing social good, which again, indeed, are our core values. You brought them so eloquently in your talk. Thank you. How vividly you showed us that one needs to go beyond his or her self, help others make their journeys possible. Thank you for saying it through your anecdotes of touching lives in Khan Academy, especially responses that one needs to go beyond Halu. In fact, you brought in such self-effacing qualities while referring to co-creating sustainable solutions, or when you talked about contribution to nation building, or when you said we can make Bharat Pe Nirbhar a reality. All these will help us reflecting on what we do. On behalf of Shri Krishna ji, Chairman of our Board of Governors, who also talks about giving back to the society, our Director, Professor Uttam Sarkar, Dean NIA, Professor Manish Thakur, MBA Chair, Professor Abhishek Goel, MBA Office, Alumni Office, our officers, staff, alumni, and colleagues who got a glimpse of the world of Iim Calcutta in your talk. Thank you, Mr. Srinivasan. Thank you, all of you, our alumni, who came back to your alma mater. Milan Kundera, who often talks about nostalgia and memories in his books, writes that the more vast the amount of time we have left behind us, the more irresistible is the voice calling us to return to it. We could see how nostalgic you were, G.M. Kapoor, Shrikant Shastri, Sanjay Gupta, Auninda Ghosh, on your return. You have made us all proud through your work. And now you will make us look back with a lot of nostalgia and say, remember what GM said about our heritage campus? Or say, Shrikant's comment about our responsibility to work in the grassroots in the Northeast? Maybe this is just the beginning. And you will all come back to us for joint research with faculty, to write in our journal, or for a session with our students. In other words, we look forward to having you for a lot more than 5 to 7 minutes. Thank you. There's high tea waiting outside. Thank you everyone for joining us. Those who are joining us online will miss the high tea, as they have also missed the dog, the mystery of the dog who joined us briefly in the auditorium but never barked. Thank you.
I request all the distinguished Alumnus Award recipients and the chief guest to please come on the stage for a group photograph. Simran. Simran. Your which batch is? I'm second year. Where are you placed? Sir, right now
Where did you do your summer?
I did my summer in Jumia, sir, in Africa.
Wow.
Kenya.
Thank you all for a wonderful evening. We've reached the end of the program. Thank you once again.